Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Eventual Knits podcast. My name is Leah. My pronouns are she, her, and my Instagram is miss_LJV. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Today is Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. And if you are a new viewer, thank you so much for checking me out. I think that my podcast is a lot of fun. I talk a lot about fiber arts, mostly knitting, some weaving, some crochet. And I also talk about life stuff. I talk about stuff that I'm dealing with, stuff that I'm working on, my personal life, sometimes work a little bit. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. It's always nice when people want to come back. The weather today here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota is a little strange. It's kind of stormy and also just generally rainy. It's a weird kind of rain though, where a lot of today it has been raining, and yet when you look outside you see lots of blue sky. It's raining from pockets of rain clouds. Right now it is sort of partly cloudy with the sun going down, so almost kind of a dusk look with a lot of overcast. So it's a very interesting day. My one cat, Nero, has not been phased. He is sleeping so plumped on the couch. And then my other cat, Grim, who hates light. He really hates thunder. He's been pretty stressed off and on throughout the day, but right now it's not storming, so he's doing pretty well. The first thing that I want to talk to you about today is that I just finished an intro to Tunisian crochet with Toni Lipsey of TL Yarncrafts, and it was really fun. Like, I just finished it less than an hour ago. So she was a part of a Fiberside chat, which I think is like a series of classes that are put on by several yarn shops around the country. I want to say that it's hosted by the Longmont yarn shop in Colorado, I think. One of my local yarn stores, Three Kittens Needle Arts, has been promoting a lot of these Fiberside chats, and so I went to one for Neighborhood Fiber Co., which actually I am wearing their sweater for. It is the community sweater, and I discovered this one a couple days ago. I get so much junk mail. It's so hard to keep up with my email inbox and also junk email inbox, so I tend to see these things last minute, and I'm so happy that I saw it. I didn't actually see it in my inbox. I saw it from Toni's page on Instagram, TL Yarncrafts. And so yeah, it was a lot of fun. If you don't know, I am actually a pretty beginner crocheter. I crocheted an Afghan, a small square Afghan, using double and triple crochets. And if you saw my episode last time, a couple weeks ago, you also saw that I was able to crochet those little scrubbies. So I can do some crochet, and I have a few random crochet needles, but I haven't really attempted anything major or anything different. But a couple years ago, when I was at the Sow's Ear in Verona, Wisconsin, it is a Wisconsin, I don't know why I said Wisconsin. When I was at Sow's Ear, which is a cafe and yarn shop, they had a class that was for Tunisian crochet, and I was like, yeah, I mean, Madison and Verona are like 4 hours for me. It didn't make any sense at the time, or like, I think it was that I was just physically unable to come back because I had previous plans, or maybe it was during the week and not on a weekend, something like that. They had, their sample was a shawl in a variegated yarn in Tunisian crochet, and it looked so cool. And so ever since, I've been really into the idea of learning Tunisian crochet, but worried that it was a little bit advanced for me, being a really beginner crocheter. But it turns out, actually, I really think knitting experience lends itself to Tunisian crochet. So Toni taught us how to do what she called simple stitch, which is just the basic Tunisian crochet stitch. I keep thinking in my head, am I saying crochet? I'm saying crochet, right? Crochet? Don't say knitting, say crochet. The simple stitch. And then she also taught us the honeycomb. And it was so funny because when she called it a honeycomb, I was like, how are you going to get a honeycomb from alternating, for lack of a better description, knits and purls? Because what sort of differentiates the honeycomb stitch from the simple stitch is doing purls. And I was like, doesn't that make seed stitch? But anyway, so I have this little sample that I did. Just a little sample. It's upside down. So I had started with less stitches than she had said. She had said something like chain 12, and I only chained 7 just because I wanted to make sure that I had to like orient myself and catch up. But I mean, there were 75 people there, and there were so many people like, slow down, no, I don't know what's happening, I'm lost, I'm confused, taking the time to like type that in, which is always really funny to me. Like, just give it a second, just wait for context, just keep trying. Like, the more you're typing, the less you're crocheting, right? So anyway, so I had done a simple crochet stitch. My pajama pants. I'm wearing pajama pants. Yeah, anyway, so I had pulled it out, and then I just did 1 row of the simple crochet because she was starting the honeycomb and I didn't want to miss it. So I did the honeycomb stitch. So mostly what I have first to show you is the honeycomb. So you can see it really does look like a little honeycomb. Toni talked about how at the end of your row, in order to get like a really nice edging, you need to go into the back of the front and the back at the same time of the stitches. And I'm clearly choosing the wrong front and back. So I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it looks kind of straight, but it doesn't look anything like this edge, right? So I'm doing something wrong. I'll have to practice it and try a different way, but I'm mostly just congratulating myself on being able to actually do the stitches and not lose chains. Like, I'm not going too early, or I'm not, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then after I did the honeycomb, I just did a little section of the simple stitch so that you can see what it looks like as well. So she said what differentiates Tunisian crochet is these vertical stitch lines. And then when I finished, I just did a little border just to prove to myself that I could do it. She didn't tell anyone how to bind off because it doesn't really matter, right? Like, I mean, crochet is just 1 loop, so you can just pull it through anywhere. But now I have my cute little sample. So that was fun. I look forward to actually making something with Tunisian crochet. And Toni TL Yarncrafts is starting a Tunisian crochet along, I think on Monday. And it's like, she's calling it a sampler. So it's trying multiple different kinds of stitches using Tunisian crochet. And I want to say, and I could be just completely making this up, but I feel like I remember seeing something where she said it's like 20 panels or something, like a lot of different stitches. So I don't know, I might check it out. Like, I might not commit to the crochet along because, man, 20 square, it's only gonna be a lot of squares, but I don't know, maybe I will. So yeah, that was just really exciting and cool, and I think that being a knitter really lends itself to Tunisian lends itself to Tunisian crochet. Obviously, I think some crochet experience also helps, but I'm trying really hard to like branch out and try different things and really do things that bring me joy. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is sort of what drives this whole episode. Steve is my partner. We've been together like 11.5 years. And he and I have been really trying to get rid of the things that don't serve us anymore, right? Like, really don't want to say completely that it's like Kondo'ing, but it kind of is exactly Kondo'ing. Like, I'm not saying that we are minimalists by any means, but I think that having a single family home for 2 people, I think allows you to accumulate more than the 2 of you have. And so I think it's kind of deceptive sometimes how much we have. I think that we have less than the average family by a lot, but I also think that we have more than we think we have. We've done a really good job of keeping, like, we have one of those cubby holes, you know, like we have a cubby hole that is bigger than the cupboard that Harry Potter lived in the movies or whatever. You know, like, it's bigger than that, and we really don't have a lot of stuff under there. We have, like, yearbooks from both of our, like, school years. We have general, like, photo memories. I have photo memories. Come on, let's be real. I have tons of photos from growing up and high school and, you know, middle school, actually, junior high. So we, but, like, you know, we had a ton of shoes under there. Why do we have so many shoes under there that we don't wear anymore, or that we would wear if we knew that they existed because we checked on it, you know? So we have been trying really hard to go through and get rid of things that we really don't need. For example, we have, like, 4 computers in that cubbyhole. We have a tower from that I bought in 2000, like, spring or winter, the winter before the spring of 2008, like late 2007, early 2008, a computer tower. Like, please tell me, 1, that it works, and 2, that I would ever need anything on it when I haven't looked at it in 12 years, right? Or, well, probably 8 years. So, like, laptops that don't even work anymore. Why do we have those? Because, well, I know why we have them. It's because we don't want to throw them in the garbage. You need to bring them to a recycling center. But we're working on getting rid of those. So we brought a whole trunk full, an entire car trunk full of stuff to the sort of hazardous waste, whatever, recycling center. And to be fair, a lot of that were sharps for our cat who has diabetes. So we had collected a lot of sharps containers with needles in them from our boy. He gets shots twice a day for his diabetes. But it also had other stuff, like tons of paint. We bought this house from his parents in 2013, and they left a bunch of paint cans and sprays, other cleaners, that kind of things. So we just collected it all up, put it in the trunk, and brought it to the waste center, and it was so nice to get rid of. It's just taking up space in our garage. So we've been trying to like clean and organize and like really take care of the stuff that we have and take inventory of the stuff that we have. Like, why did we have 4 different kinds of the exact same cleaner with various like amounts used out of them? But that's afforded us to, I like to clean out the garage every year. I don't, sweep it out at the very least. It helps keep the, bugs down. It helps with dust and dirt. And we actually had a very sad number of frogs that had died in our garage. Like, we try really hard in the summer to not let them in if we open it in the night, but like, who knows, if frogs are getting in at any given time. So just we get these little frogs, they're like this big. And so there was a couple that sadly perished in the great garage debacle of 2020. And one that is just a part of the concrete. I don't know what happened. Could not get it out of the concrete. It just became one with the concrete. But anyway, our garage looks really nice because we got rid of all that junk. The last stuff we need to get out of our garage is like random, like car brakes, old car brakes, and random metals. We have 1 tire that we need to get rid of, which brings me to my point. So I asked Steve, like, what can I do? What can I do about my own stuff? I collect yarn, he collects games. So all of the games are really kept in what we call the game room. Again, we are 2 people who own a single family home, and so that means we have a couple of additional bedrooms. So we keep all of the games and game accessories like figures and memorabilia and standees and that kind of thing in what we call the game room. And that room is always closed, typically to keep cats out and, you know, really just keep the area nice. And we actually have a couple plants in there because since the cats can't really get around to the edges of the room, we can actually keep plants in there that they will not destroy, which is awesome. We have a bonsai tree and a little plant that used to live in my office before COVID that is way happier at home and not way happier than it was in the office. Like in the office, it was this sad, tiny little plant. Like it was just dying. And it said like perfect for offices, right? Just keep it damp and you should be good to go. And it was just so sad. And it only had like a few leaves left. And I was like, great, cool. Always killing plants. Awesome. And then we brought it home and I put it in the window. I mean, I had it in a window at work too, but put it in the window and I let Steve water it, you know, on whatever schedule he watered it on. And then I hadn't checked on it in like a month. And I was like, oh shoot, oh my God, I hope that the little tree, the little plant didn't die. And I went and it is like this flourishing, huge, so many leaves, like down to the ground. I mean, the pot is like, you know, 6 inches or something, just flourish, so many leaves. It's just the happiest plant. So looks like he made a new friend. But anyway, the yarn stuff. So I said, what can I do? And he sort of gestured to the downstairs living room at large and said, you can take care of this. What did he mean by this? He meant that I had maybe like 6 project bags sort of strewn about on the couches, tons of various yarn paraphernalia. I have like one of those 3-tier carts that I have yarn stuff on, or, you know, knitting supplies and whatnot. So it had like crochet hooks and, you know, darning needles, lots of stitch markers, measuring tapes, little rulers, you know, that kind of thing. So all sort of strewn about in there. And I was like, okay, you're right. No, I really want to go through it. And I thought that I would maybe go through it on an episode, sort of talk about like a what's in the bag sort of thing. But it kind of gave me a lot of anxiety because I feel kind of bad frogging things, like in terms of what was my intention for this. And it didn't go the way that I planned. And so it was almost like, I don't want to say like I was ashamed, because I'm not. Like, I'm happy to like repurpose the yarns or do a project that brings me joy or that sort of honors whatever I'm going for. But for some reason, I don't know, I just didn't want to do it on a podcast. I wanted to sort of go through it myself and figure out what I wanted. And I don't have a before picture because I never remember to take a before picture. But let me tell you, I regathered like 6 at least knitting needles, the same probably number of project bags. I was able to consolidate. I brought up so many project bags from downstairs, and it felt so good to just frog the projects that were not serving me anymore. It felt good to reassess the projects that I want to keep going on. It was just really good, and now everything looks nice and I'm feeling really excited. But that then spurred me to want to finish the so many projects that I had going on. So I'm going to go through those projects now. The first thing that I want to show that I finished is my Colorful Keepsake shawl by Tina Say. So look at this huge shawl. It's kind of wrinkly because I've been wearing it a lot. It is so beautiful. So this is a shawl that takes 3 skeins of yarn, and the idea is to basically use all of them. And I showed last time on the show that the Eventual knit show, that I used all of the like extra little bits And so I ended up on the wrong side a couple times, which is fine. What's really funny is in that podcast episode, I was like, yeah, you know, it'll be, you know, bunched up. You won't be able to see it. But the way I've been wearing it, because it's so nice and big, it's showcased right in the front. So I've been sort of wearing it a lot like this. So I've been wearing it sort of like the longer skinny end on the around the front, and then this like this, you know, and so it's like this like really cozy, cute, like this goes all the way down to my elbow, and so, you know, it goes really far down. Look at that. It's even like, it's so big and so cozy, and I'm just so surprised. It doesn't really feel like it was that intensive to be knitting in terms of like time and whatnot. I mean, like, I guess I have been working on it off and on since like February or March, but as you can see, yeah, that those wrong sides or whatever are right front and center, but it's all good. So I've been wearing this a lot. I love it. I talked more about it a lot on my last podcast, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I did block it, as you can see, and it grew so much, and it makes me really excited to knit more huge shawls. I'm super in a big shawl kick. So yeah, this is the Colorful Keepsake by Tina Say. It's so good. Oh, I guess I should show you. Remember when I told you how I was really hyped for this lace? Look at that lace, you guys. Oh my god. And like these stitches too, so fun, so interesting. This is also like, if you don't block your knits or you've never thought about it, look at how amazing it gets and how big and like flat and beautiful it gets when you actually do. Look at how big this is. So that's the very first thing. I would be wearing it, but I've been like running up and down. But yeah, especially again with the heat on or not on in this house and it getting pretty chilly, I wear this all the time. I have little shawl pins and whatnot clips that I use if I want it to stay still, but otherwise it's big enough that it's not a huge deal. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that I don't think I've talked about on the podcast in quite some time. This is a gift for Mother's Day. When's Mother's Day? Like May. That for my mom. So I think I showed on the podcast once that I had started a pattern called How Cold Is It? And I had knit an entire glove, and it's a glove, set of mittens, in one evening, and then I realized I had been knitting with a size 0 the whole time. I think that would have been okay, I guess, because I do knit really loosely, but they would have been pretty tight. Like, not horribly so, but they just weren't as like big and cozy as I was sort of hoping for. And so you really should knit it in size 1s, and so I started over, but I was sort of defeated in that moment where I was like, I was so happy at the time whenever I started them in May, because I was hoping to knock them out before Mother's Day, but that when I knit the wrong glove or the wrong size, and also I was thinking the yarn didn't really fit my mom the way that I wanted it to in terms of color layout. And so I sort of lost steam for a while, and then I like finally got them started, and then I just really put off knitting the thumbs. I was just being a huge baby all around. Let's just say that, okay? I am so happy that I finished these. I was like, I'm sitting down, I'm finishing the second glove. I had, honestly, I had basically the entire chart. I had the cuff of the second glove started, yes. I had the cuff of the second glove started. And it really speaks to, again, how fast the pattern goes once you actually start knitting it, that I finished it within a couple days. And I was just so happy to knock it out. So these are called the How Cold, so the question is, how cold is it? And the answer is, it's cold as expletive. So the original pattern does have you actually spell out the F word. I thought that my mom would appreciate the asterisk, but these are big, cozy, comfy mittens. I think, so in Minnesota, it's definitely way too cold in the winter to only wear these, but these would go great over some like isotoners. I think they would be fantastic. Look at how nice this pattern is. It's just so good. As you can see, I used self-striping yarn. For the gloves, the mittens. The yarn, the self-striping yarn is May and Satsuki from My Neighbor Totoro. It's a Canon hand dyes, and then the contrast, or the main color, is a, I think, Cascade Heritage maybe, which I think it's so cozy. It's very like stretchy and squishy. But yeah, I think these are very my mom. So she, growing up and also still to this day, when it gets really cold, my mom likes to say it's MF cold, like she'll say MF, and so I like that the pattern is called How Cold Is It, and she says it's MF cold, and so aka it is cold as fuck, right? So these gloves are knit in, I knit them in the round using 9-inch circulars, the Chow Goose. I really like 9-inch circulars. I know that some people, they don't like how they feel on their hands, or maybe they feel like it's too cramped, maybe how you hold needles, that the needles are too short, but I happen to really like 9-inch circulars, particularly because then I don't get ladders. I think that they're really easy to do the charts with, and it keeps, I think, the tension more even than if you were knitting with DPNs, or at least for me. So I knit all of it in my circulars except for when we started decreasing up here. So you can tell my color work is pretty good. I would say on the pink glove, I'd say my color work actually is pretty even, except for it gets a little tight up here, a little puffy. And then on the second glove, it got a little tight on the L here. But otherwise it's looking pretty good. You don't see a lot of stitches or anything getting lost in getting pulled too tight or getting lost in there. So I think that turned out really well, and they knit up really fast if you're into color work. There's only a couple places where you need to catch floats, not that many, just a couple. And it was really easy to modify the U to make it an asterisk. Like it lends itself really well to just turning that U into an asterisk if you need to. And yeah, so I'm excited to give this to her for Mother's Day. The pattern, How Cold Is It, is by Drunk Girl Designs, and I bought it on Ravelry probably a year ago, so I don't know if it's anywhere else, but you can go check it out there, or maybe search for Drunk Girl Designs on Instagram, or see, if she has a website or what. The next project that I want to show you is what I would consider a super senior project. In just a week or two, it will have been a year since I cast on for this project. This project was the first sweater that I actually completely cast on for that wasn't a crop top or a t-shirt. I believe up until this point I had only knit the Lollipop Crop by Nancy Ricci, right? Getting Pearly With It on Instagram. So it's a fingering weight sweater. I have shown it a few times as I've worked on it, but I was like, I'm knocking out these projects, I'm getting them done. And so it's like, all I had to do was the sleeves. I had 2 sleeves to knit, let's knit those sleeves. And so I cranked those out over 2 days, and then I was really nervous about blocking it because the yarn the main color is a very, very rich red, and I talked about this earlier, like guys, even though I know that it's probably gonna bleed, I did not want to try to figure out how to get the color to stay. So it's like a maroon, a deep maroon, and then a yellow, and it was a crisp, pure white. So, I mean, you know what's gonna happen here. But I went to block it. I had bought a ton of Shout color catcher sheets, and I put it in the bathtub, and I turned on the water, and it immediately turned orange and red. I threw in a bunch of the color catchers. They did nothing. There was way too much dye that was coming out, and so I was trying to triage and staunch the bleeding and keep the white safe as much as possible. And in the end, I just couldn't leave it in the water. I just let it get wet for a few minutes while I, you know, tried to keep the water clear and running. And then I took it out and I went to block it. This is called a super senior project because because the sleeves, like, they grew so much in length. I don't know if it's a combination or individually the nature of the yarn, that I somehow was not paying attention to how long I was knitting the sleeves, or if it was that when I was like panicking about the bleeding, that I allowed the fiber to stretch in the sleeves more because I was worrying more about the yoke. And it might be a combination of all three. But the yarn is Sun Valley Fibers Merino Cashmere Nylon. And I've never knit anything with, I don't think I've knit anything with that much cashmere in it. So I was like, well, maybe once it dries, it'll like shrink back up in a little bit. No, it didn't do that. My sleeves ended up being like something like 23 inches, 24 inches from the armpit, not even from the shoulder, you guys. Like, my sweaters for myself are 18 inches or so. Whoops. So the sweater is done. It's so cute. It is so soft. This is from my friend Sean, and she is really, I sent her pictures. She's really excited. So I'm gonna mail that to her once I finish with these sleeves. And the good news is, I mean, it's just pulling back, ripping back in for some ribbing. So I did, in fact, during Toni's class, when she was explaining some stuff or people were asking her to repeat it, rip out the first sleeve. So the pattern is the Hogwarts A History sweater by Bad Girl Wolf Sits and Knits, or Bad Girl Wolf Knits, I think, on Ravelry. So this is, if you've never seen this sweater before, you can pick through several motifs for chart A, chart B, chart C, and chart D. And I think there's even a chart E, and I think some people have even gone as far as to go all the way down the sweater. So for the purposes of our sweater, I did the charts that Sean wanted, and here I added in, she really wanted the little stars to be sort of throughout the rest of the yoke. And so there was definitely some parts where I was knitting with 3 colors, and not something that I would really want to do with a merino cashmere again. So the yarn, the white yarn is definitely tinted a pink now. Again, I did what I could, but it doesn't really look, I mean, if you didn't see the original white, I don't think you can really tell that much, especially from a distance. So, I mean, this is the best I could do. It is so soft, it's so comfy, it's so cozy. I've been working on this a year. J.K. Rowling is a complete piece of trash, and I don't support giving her any money, anything. But I also think that people who Harry Potter has meaning to, and that they should be allowed to keep that meaning without supporting JK. So I had started this a year ago before JK decided to really double, triple, quadruple down on her really shitty turfy opinions. But in the meantime, look at these memories that Sean gets to have with her beautiful Quidditch. I love the snitches. Snitches are so cute. I learned a lot. It's so funny because when I went to weave in the ends, there was so many things that were just strange. There was a couple random loops where it's like, did I just forget to pull the yarn all the way through? Like, did it get caught on something? There was no rhyme or reason that those loops existed. It's not really like I'm a pretty consistent knitter. It's so strange. And then there were just ends of yarn in random spots. I feel like I changed yarn in the front way more than I should have, or maybe it got tangled and I had to cut it in multiple places. I'm not really sure what went on, but I have a lot of questions for Leah, who is just starting her first sweater. But the good news is none of that shows through. It is a beautiful, gorgeous sweater. I did start the ripping back, so I remeasured for the sleeves. Look at this. Look at how much I have to pull back. Honestly, what I'm the most mad about is not re-knitting, but all this extra effort that I did on both sleeves. Like, why? That was unnecessary. Didn't need to do that. For Sean's sweater, I knit what I believe is the smallest size. I haven't actually measured across how big it ended up being, but I knit the smallest size in size 5 needles. And of course, like, I love Chow Goose, so everything of mine is in a Chow Goose circular. The cuffs are being done in a size 3, 16-inch circular. With the completion of this project, I am so happy to have that off my chest, and I can get it out to the person that deserves it and can wear it, and I cannot wait. I will share pictures if she ends up taking pictures of what she looks like in it. I think that I have probably at some point in this rambling added in a picture of me wearing it. I am at least 2 sizes bigger in terms of knitting than Sean, maybe more even, but because I'm a loose knitter and because it grew, it's gonna be a really cozy oversized sweater, I think, for her. So with that, I think that is everything that I have completely finished. I, as I said, did frog a few things. So one thing that I had to frog that I was so sad to frog is actually a TL Yarncrafts Toni Lipsey pattern, and I can't remember the name of it right now. It is a pattern that Kalisha of Quirky Monday Craftcast crocheted. I want to say it has summer in it, the summer in the title, but it is a crocheted t-shirt, and it was crocheted in Lion Brand jeans, and it was so cute, and I was like, I have to have one of those. And I had started it, and it was cute, and I had probably like, I don't know, 8 inches or so crocheted up, and so it was crocheted in pieces, and you'd seam them together. Well, I started crocheting that when I was a smaller, thinner person than I currently am, and so it just was not going to fit. And so I was like, you know what, it's fine. I still want to make it, but I need to make it in a bigger size. And to be fair, I would want it more oversized than I was picking anyway, now that I feel like I have a better understanding of sweater sizing. And so I think even when I was a little bit thinner, I think that it would have still been kind of a tight squeeze, or it wouldn't have maybe draped in the way that I wanted. So I'm glad that I did frog it anyway. Let's see over there. Oh, another frogging that I did was a sweater. I don't even know which sweater it was. It's definitely something that I started on the way back from Madison one time, and I was like, I just really need a project, so I must have finished whatever I had. And I don't remember what sweater it was, but I have yarn now for it, for a really pretty blue sweater. I don't know. And lastly, another thing that I ended up frogging was the band of some Jessie May, the butt shorts. I'm just not in a butt shorts headspace right now. So I have the I-cord waistband drawstring, and I will start those again a different time. But I couldn't remember where I was, and it's fine. I was not very far. I had like 1.5 inches on the waistband. It just feels so nice to be free of those projects. There were a couple other miscellaneous projects that I had impulsively cast on for various people and myself, and that they just were not sparking that joy. So I ripped them out, and my space is so much nicer and cleaner now. So that's it for everything that I finished. Now let's move on to my works in progress. The first work in progress that I have is a pair of socks that I'm working on for Steve. So I think I showed them, I think I showed the start last time, or maybe I just talked about it. But they are, the sock pattern is the Twizzler socks? No, zigzag socks. So I have completed one full sock. This is my sock with, why can't I think of what this is called? Sock blocker. It's just one of those days. So it's much smaller than Steve's foot. But look at this colorway is a KnitCircus yarns in Rainbow Road. And I definitely ended up with actually more than I thought for the foot. So I swear, the last time I knit this pattern, or no, it wasn't this pattern, it was a different pattern, but I remembered thinking that the yarn was so thick that they came out a little bit bigger than I had anticipated, but it also might have been the stitch patterns because it's very stretchy. So these, I knit a pretty small size. Well, okay, here's what's really interesting. So Steve has really big feet. I cast on in a stretchy cast on, and the ankle is too big. It kind of bunches a little bit around his ankle and then fits just fine here, but then here the foot is super stretched out. And what's interesting is I think the pattern said something like, you know, it was weird numbers, like 56, 64, 72 or something. I think so. And so I did 64, I believe, here-ish, all the way through the heel, which I did a slip stitch heel flap here. And then I gusset. But I think I only decreased down to 68 because I know what to do from there. And I honestly know what to do now. I just couldn't remember if it really mattered how many they want you to cast on. So I think I'm just going to do the second sock the way that I normally do Steve's socks, which is 68 stitches. I might have started this with the 72 thinking that, I don't know, that his ankle would stretch it out or something. But I have this much yarn left over from the first thing, so that does tell me that I have a little bit of leeway in using more stitches because my biggest fear was running out of yarn. And so I knit this one inside out, so like the red to the purple. Red to the purple, but I believe I'm going to do the other sock in the inverse, so I'm going to do purple down to the red. And I really like that this is Rainbow Road because Rainbow Road is, you know, wiggly, zigzaggy, whatever, so the zigzag socks are perfect. I am so loving this gradient. I am keeping this project in a basket that I recently bought from the Global World Market that was held in Minneapolis. I want to say this company is called Tiny Tim or something. So the Global World Market appeared to be companies that were partnered from people who live in Minnesota or who currently, I don't know, stationed in Minnesota, something to that effect, with other countries. And like some of them really gave me creepy colonial missionary vibes, and I just kind of steered clear from those booths. But a lot of others seem to be like, yeah, okay. It's like maybe white saviory and probably white saviory, but also they've established some good programs. So like one of them has been helping women and children with HIV, and another one has been, you know, I don't know, building hospitals. But a lot of them actually were like, hey, people are making these in this And I heard about the event from Global Mamas, which I buy dresses and shirts and whatnot from. So Global Mamas is like they employ and pay fair wages to the women who print the fabrics. And then there's some other ones, like my aunt bought a couple of tablecloths from a Bolivian group, or a group that partners with women, men and women in Bolivia who weave. I assume it's, I guess I don't know if it's machine weaving. Some of them definitely looked machine woven, but maybe it's really just that intricate. I guess I don't know enough about weaving, honestly, about how detailed or like how small you can get, but a lot of them definitely looked hand woven in a good way. There's another group that these like really beautiful floor rugs were woven out of like recycled or reused t-shirts, which was really cool, and I really want to buy one, but I didn't have, you know, $400 to $25 up front. But anyway, this basket I bought, I'm trying to use more baskets to sort of showcase my projects, so that it's like, hey, this is what you have to work on, instead of all of these mystery bags that I have to unzip and look through. So what I've been doing is I'll like place my whole project on the basket and put the basket somewhere that I can reach, and it's been working really good, working really well to sort of organize my stuff into one little place and that I can see it and I can just grab it and start working on it. So I'm keeping my eye out for this same sort of style of shallow basket, shallow wide basket. Yeah, it's really nice. The last work in progress that I want to show you is a shawl by Lisa K. Ross of Paper Daisy Creations, and it is a shawl called Autumn Mist. So I believe that she partnered with Miss Babs Yarn for this shawl, and so Miss Babs had put up kits in the shop, and last week I did show the yarns that I got, but now I have started using them. So this is my first project using mohair. It's so exciting. At least I think it's mohair. It's been so much fun to knit. It is so pretty. The gradient is like killing me. So I bought the kit and I have started working on it, and I was so excited, and again I'm trying to keep everything really organized and nice in terms of not leaving stuff around. So I think I probably threw away the tags for these, but here is my shawl progress so far. So the shawl starts at this end with a sort of like deep green gray, like a sort of sage almost. And then you do some, it's so good. I could literally, I'm not joking, I could just run my hand over this all day. I was telling Steve that it reminds me of those like little kid books with like the different animals or whatnot with different textures, and like the bunny had like had a very specific soft, halo-y, fuzzy, whatever. The second skein is a gray with kind of like a purple sort of undertone. It's mostly gray, but it's like, I feel like the mohair sort of brings out a sort of purpley undertone. And then the third color, which I've started knitting with, as you can see, is actually starting to get towards a gray purple. And the yarn, there we go. Now it's just cut. Looks like this. And this color is so complex and beautiful. And then the remaining colors, excuse my crunching. Ugh, if you want to see what my life is like, this is from a cat. And this is from like a couple hours of this existing. One of my cats just loves chewing on plastic so much, and he usually loves to do it in a really annoying way, like on purpose, to get your attention. Anyway, the last three colors will be this tell me that this is not going to be the most gorgeous shawl. Yeah. Yeah. So excited. So this is being knit on, I think, size 5s. Size 6 needles. And this is a fingering weight, and this is a lace weight, of course. I am already, right now, the shawl is above 325 stitches or so. So it's getting big really fast. You increase 10 stitches every full repeat, which is a decent amount. My favorite part right now, so it's alternating garter and stockinette, but my favorite detail right now is the edging. Look at that, the way it has you do the edging. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's basic, but really, it's like good for work. And it's just good for any sort of in-between knitting. Now, my only problem, which is a me problem, not a yarn problem or a project problem, is that there's been a couple places where I just either make a stitch out of nothing or I accidentally pull up a stitch from somewhere else. So, for example, right here, I just picked up a stitch, I just picked up a bar between stitches and just made a new stitch. And I don't want to drop down because it would be too much yarn in between. It would just be a big gap, and I didn't notice it until I was out of the mohair. And then other places, I mean, it bodes well that I'm not immediately finding it. Aha. Other places, like right here, I accidentally, it's like I don't lose the stitch, but I pick up the stitch below and then knit it with the current stitch, and so then it makes this gap. And I did that. So, I mean, it's fun. Again, I don't care. It's fine. Look at this. Can't tell. It's just a beautiful shawl. But it's also like, okay, please, please. And that project is residing in this project bag. Now, the tag actually was still attached to it, and all it says is it's called the Zippity Voo Mini. I don't know. I want to say I bought this from KnitCircus's store, like they were letting a local bag maker, maybe, because they partner with local people to do trunk shows and whatnot, and I think this might have been from there, but I don't know who makes this, and there doesn't appear to be any tags or identifiers anywhere, but it's a sturdy, awesome project bag, so happy to have it. So I think that's it for all of my current projects and my finished projects. I'm just feeling really good about everything that I've gotten done. Let's talk for a minute about what I'm excited to actually work on. So the first thing is I have tons of sweaters that I want to start. I'm super in the mood to start a new sweater for myself. And so what I did was I went through and I was like, hey, Steve, do you think you'd help me? And my friends, I have a few friends that I would get their opinions on what sweater out of these 5 should I knit. I definitely could have picked more than 5, but I tried to keep it to 5. And I had them vote. I had Steve and my friends vote. And then he was streaming, and you should check out his stream. It's twitch.tv/blinkoom. He also is a co-host of a gaming podcast called the Polykill Podcast. You should definitely go check that out. But he was streaming, and so he put up a poll, and we talked through each of the sweaters and why I'd want to knit them and what they look like and any different construction things, and we had everybody vote. And the winner of the poll was the Cozy Neighborhood Sweater Pullover by Joji Locatelli. I think it was probably one of the top 2 that my heart, like, once you know how when you like have a list of options and then when you're letting someone else decide or help you pick, that your heart says, like, I really want this one, or I really don't want this one, right? Like once you put it to someone else, then your heart kind of tells you what you really want. And this was one of the top two. And actually, both the top two choices were Joji Locatelli patterns. So I was super happy with it. I am actually really excited to get started, and I want to get started right now, but I'm not gonna get started until I finish Sean's sweater. So the Cozy Neighborhood is it's sport weight, but Joji says that she thinks that the yarn that she used knits up like a DK. The size that I need to knit for, I think, requires about 1,500 yards. So I think it's like more, not a tunic, it might be tunic length. Let's see the description. If you are anything like me, when the cold weather strikes, you just want to curl up in a cozy sweater that just hugs you. Makes you feel warm, but also comfortable, relaxed. This snuggly pullover uses texture to highlight the beauty in hand-dyed yarns and features a lovely cable in the front that looks complex but is really easy to knit. The curved hem in the back gives the sweater a modern look, and the ribbed sleeves make it really comfortable to wear without the extra bulk. Choose your favorite cozy yarn and cast on right away. Now, she says, you know, hand-dyed yarn, but I say, man, even in the onesies that I could combine together, I'd still need like 7 or 8 skeins of the DK yarn that I have that is hand-dyed. So instead, I'm going to knit it in Barocco Remix Light. So this Barocco Remix Light is a rich purple that has like some tweed looking bits, and it has enough yards for me to knit the whole thing, but I also think it would make like really cozy. So I'm definitely going to cast on and start knitting that as soon as I can. I really want a cozy, comfy pullover to wear as it gets colder. You should definitely check that out if you are looking for a comfy sweater. I will keep you posted on how that is knitting up. I haven't swatched for gauge, but the recommended needle is a US 7. So yeah, I should probably knit up pretty quickly, honestly. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'll let you know. I forgot to bring up earlier that I am knitting Steve a scarf. It is called the Rayures scarf, and that is by Amy Miller, and the yarn I'm using is Show Me Yarn. So I think last time I had shown that I was getting started with the tube, so it might look like I'm basically where I was last time, which is not 100% inaccurate, but also it was coming out wider than I wanted. Like, it would definitely be really thick on his neck, and so I ripped it all back and I started over. And the pattern, I think, calls for like nine stripes in each color, and I am going to knit 1.5 times to make sure that it's long enough for Steve to wrap around his neck twice. So I think with the length that will be added will work out really well for him to be able to wrap it around 1.5 times. So I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if it's 9, yeah, so I'm gonna do, maybe it's 15 stripes that I wanted to do each time. And so that will be really good. It's in happy fall colors in Show Me Yarn. I just really like how these yarns work out. This is a yellow, and then the main color, or the primary color in the background, is called Sugar Maple Brown, or Maple Brown Sugar, something like that. And these are, and oh, I was using a needle that was too big also. So I pared down the number of stitches, and then I also switched to the actual needle size, which is a 5. I think I was using a 6 on accident. So brought it down to a 5, reduced the number of stitches, and I think it's like the exact perfect width. And that is being kept in my Darn Yarn Minnesota bag, which is so cute. It's this cute little mulberry color. And then if you want, on the inside it has a drawstring. It's so cool. I love this bag. As always in my podcast, there are a few yarns that I'm going to showcase before I wrap this up. So the first yarn that I'm going to showcase is a yarn from a store called Muse 2020. It is a local yarn shop that I recently discovered this summer when Steve and I went down to Hastings, Minnesota for a game shop experience. So we went down there when things had opened up a little bit, and most of the places that we ever would go to or try to visit don't have a lot of patrons at once. But we went on either late in a Saturday or maybe on a Sunday, and I was like, what is this across the street? And it was a yarn shop, but as most yarn shops in Minnesota and maybe in the country, they have hours that are difficult to sort of go to if you are not directly local. And so we were like, okay, some Saturday we're going to come back. So we, towards the end of the summer, sometime in August, we went. And just like I thought, like when we went, you know, the people, like in small towns in Minnesota, it seems like there's just one street. It's just one street, and then all the shops are sort of along that street. There were lots of people eating outside, like the few restaurants over there that were open. A lot of people were on the, like, they had closed off the main street so people couldn't drive down it so that they could spread out the tables and whatnot. So we weren't interested in any of that. We were just interested in the yarn and the games. So we went into this yarn shop, and it's a very narrow, small yarn shop. And there was no one there except for the two owners at the time, which was really nice because, again, it was small. But they had, you know, right when you came in, it said, you know, it had a sign and said, make sure you use sanitizer before coming into the shop. You know, try not to touch anything as much as possible, even though you know that yarnies, we want to squish all the yarns. The two women working there were super nice, and they said they dye their own yarns. They also carried other yarns, but most of their shop, or half of their shop, were yarns that they dyed themselves. So I spent a really long time looking at all the yarns. I love, love, love buying local yarns to whatever shop. Like if a shop does its own yarn, has its own yarn line, I want it. So I ended up getting a couple skeins of yarn, but the one I really want to show you is this Slub yarn. Look at how bright and fun and happy this is. So you can see it's Muse Fiber Co. And this colorway is Neon Rainbow. So it's 400 meters, 438 yards, 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon. And it is just so cute and so happy, and I could just see myself knitting a shawl out of this. They do have a website. I haven't actually gotten to it, so I don't know if you can buy their yarns online, but it is muse2320fiber.com. And I think that might be their address. Maybe I'm just making that up. But it was cool to discover a new shop that's semi-local to me. Hastings is not that far away from where I live, and it was just like super cool to meet new people and get some new yarns. The next yarns I have are from Bumblebee Acres Farm. So I bought 2 skeins of Coquette Sock and 1 skein of Bubble Sock in the Autumn Rainbow colorway. So I think I couldn't decide, and I wanted to see what they ended up looking like. So I bought, can you see, so pretty. They're so rich and autumnal. I do this every time. Get my hand out of the way here. I am such a, like, I really love singles, and I really love these high twist. So Bubble Sock is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, or no, 80% superwash merino, 20% silk. It's a fingering weight 2-ply, 400 yards. Love. And then the Coquette Sock is 75% American Corriedale, 25% nylon 3-ply. And this is another yarn that I really like. So it looks a little bit different, doesn't have the same like dense high twist, you know, I mean, because this is the silk, right? The silk is making it end up looking like that. And then this is a little bit floofier. But I love the color for all of them. Bumblebee Acres Farm is awesome. I was really happy to secure these guys. And lastly, you're gonna have to forgive the crinkling. As always, I have to talk about high fiber arts every so often. Probably almost every episode. I try to spread around the love, but high fiber arts is definitely one of the shops that I frequent the most. I think the two shops that I frequent the most are High Fiber Arts and Fiber Nymph Dye Works. Followed closely, I mostly stock King Fiber because their yarns are amazing, but they're just so far away. Like, this is a King Fiber Classic Fingering Superwash Merino in Manta Ray. I really, really, really wanted this, and it's not gonna not get washed out, but King Fiber is so amazing. Okay, but now back to what I was gonna say, High Fiber Arts. Okay, this is single DK in 100% superwash merino. The colorway is Jelly Beans. It's 240 yards each, so I hope this is enough for a small top, like a short top. But I've been just really feeling, like I said, the whites and the speckles. Did I show this last time? Like when I'm talking about it now, it's like, did I show this last time? I don't know. You'll see that I'm sitting in front of a different section of my stash today. I have some more of the autumnals. So the Bumblebee Acre Farms yarn goes here in this section, and the Muse goes in this section. Oh, look at that, it fits so nicely right here. And these minis don't really go anywhere because I'm going to be using them, but I'll just stick them right here for now, and then I'll use them. Oh, and then Miss Babs gives you a cute little, literally says swatch me. It's a 10-yard sample of Killington, which is their DK weight. That's really cool. So yeah, I think that's all I have for knitting stuff for you this week. It's gonna get really busy, or it's really busy right now in general with work and whatnot, so I wanted to get this recorded before I got exhausted or too busy. The next 2 days I'm gonna be doing 7 hours of training, like giving 7 hours of training, because like half my job is being a technology trainer, and it's a lot of stuff to teach people. One of the classes that I teach is very dense and super long, very involved, and it's 2 days of training, so that's basically what I'm doing tomorrow and Friday, but then I won't have to teach the class again until December, so it'll be great. I have several people in my life who are having babies. One of my best friend from high school is due in November, and I was thinking I was going to crochet her a blanket, and I believe I talked about this last episode. What I didn't consider is that other people know fiber arts too, and one of her other close friends is going to crochet her a blanket, and that is the craft that she does. Like, that's what she crochets, she doesn't knit, and so it seems mean, it would seem mean for me to also crochet her something when my main hobby is knitting. So I was thinking, okay, I'll let her other friend crochet her a blanket. I'm so glad that we had that conversation so that we wouldn't both crochet her blankets and then I'd be stepping on toes. But I will maybe knit her a baby surprise jacket. I think that would be really cute. I knit one baby surprise jacket for my nephew a couple years ago, and it was really cute, but I'm sure it only fit him for like 3 days. But it was still really fun, and it was also, I think, the very first literal sweater I had ever knit, even though Baby Surprise is obviously knit differently than every other sweater out there. And then now for sure I've solidified then that the yarn that I bought, I can crochet a blanket for my brother. One of my brothers is having a baby in this winterish, like I think maybe February, maybe January, maybe December, I don't remember. But one of my youngest brothers is going to have a baby. And so I am really excited to knit them a blanket or crochet them a baby blanket. That would be a lot of fun. Maybe I'll also make them a baby surprise jacket. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think that is it for me for this week. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out. And I look forward to keeping you updated on the goings on in my life. Please check out all of the creators that I have linked, the pattern makers, the yarn dyers that I have mentioned. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please make sure that you like and subscribe if you like what you see. Please leave me a comment below. I love hearing about what you're knitting or crocheting, what you're working on, what you're interested in, why you came by the podcast. I hope that we can chat again soon. Bye.